All right, picture this. You crack open a dusty, highly classified dossier, and inside are two separate case files detailing some truly bizarre accounts. We're talking long-term surveillance, physical intimidation, and some deeply, deeply buried family secrets. In this explainer, we're basically putting on our private investigator hats to examine the raw source material of two wildly unsettling testimonies. And look, we're not here to jump to supernatural conclusions or anything like that. We are just looking at the hard evidence of potential multi-year cover-ups happening right under people's noses.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the structural roadmap of our investigation files for today. 1. Opening the case file. 2. The operative in Paris. 3. Ambush in the forest. 4. Cold case Vermont cover-up. And 5. The final assessment.
All right, Section 1, opening the case file.
So our very first exhibit here centers around your classic three-story suburban home. But this particular place has allegedly been under a highly orchestrated watch for over a decade. Let's just walk through the timeline. Over 10 years ago, the father of the household, he's a lawyer who often worked late, spotted a Chevy Suburban just crawling down the street at like 5 miles per hour. It eventually parks directly in front of their home until 5:30 in the morning, and no one ever got out. Fast forward a few years, when our primary witness was 15, a literal squadron of 3 cars drove down the street at night, fully synchronized. The occupants were actively sweeping flashlights across the houses, and the beam actually illuminated the witness's second-floor bedroom ceiling. And then years later, a landscape contractor found a tiny, key-sized hidden camera tucked away in a backyard bush. The battery was completely dead.
Now, as investigators, we have to look really closely at that camera. You see, it had no memory card, it wasn't storing footage locally at all, so why use a device like that? Well, it strongly implies that it was streaming a live video feed to an external device nearby. Meaning, and this is the genuinely creepy part, while that camera was active, someone was likely parked just down the street, actively watching this family's backyard in real time.
And the paranoia? Yeah, it definitely intensifies when new neighbors move in next door. It's a young couple with no kids taking over this massive family home. The witness repeatedly catches them looking directly down into their yard from a top-floor window at just incredibly strange hours. Notice the exact statement from the witness here. They were always standing, which eliminated the desk hypothesis. So they weren't just, working at a window, they were actively watching. And this whole thing culminates when the witness actually spots a third man in their kitchen. It's a highly distinctive, very muscular, fully bald man with incredibly thick eyebrows. And the second he realizes he's been noticed, he immediately draws the curtains.
Moving on to Section 2, the operative in Paris. So years pass, right? And what seems like this bizarre, localized neighborhood watch inexplicably goes global. The family takes a vacation to Paris, France. They're actually expecting a marriage proposal for the older brother. But while sitting in this completely random Persian bar, the witness glances across the room and locks eyes with a man sitting alone. And you guessed it, it is the exact same distinctive, muscular, bald neighbor from the kitchen window all those years ago. The witness reports that they locked eyes and there was this immediate mutual recognition. And what does the operative do? He abruptly gets up and just flees the bar. Doesn't even finish his drink or pay his bill.
But the surveillance doesn't just stop at the bar. No way. Just a few days later, in broad daylight, while the family is out doing tourist activities, the witness spots the bald operative again. And this time, he is standing a mere 50 feet away.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how severe the situation actually was. This man is standing 50 feet away, snapping photos of them with a professional-looking camera. I mean, this second sighting completely shatters any kind of coincidence theory. This wasn't just some random vacation overlap. This was active tracking. It actually terrified the dad so much that the second they got back home, he frantically combed through all their home security footage. He didn't find anything, but he fully realized that his family had been watched for a decade.
Section 3. Ambush in the forest. So believing the surveillance is really escalating now, the witness recounts a deeply disturbing incident near the Angel National Forest. They were just seeking to clear their head after some bad news, so they went for a hike at 8 p.m. The conditions were terrible. Heavy fog, reducing visibility to maybe 20 feet tops. And while out on this isolated trail, they encounter this rapid series of escalating sensory anomalies. First, it's out-of-place smells, floral perfume, then a sudden campfire scent, and finally a really distinct herbal smell. Next, a flashlight beam sweeping back and forth on this totally inaccessible, highly dangerous ridge, like 100 feet above the trail. When the witness turns off the music playing on their phone,
they hear whistling, a direct, real-time response to their presence. And finally, when they reach an overlook, there is a freshly placed stone sculpture just sitting on a flat rock. These are strict, deliberate markers of stalking in a very isolated, dangerous environment. The witness obviously turns back immediately, and man, that is when the ambush happens. They hear these rapid footsteps charging right at them through the fog, coming from the exact direction they need to flee. The witness actually stands their ground. They draw a switchblade, fully preparing for a physical fight, but the invisible charge abruptly stops right in front of them, leaving just dead silence in the thick fog. After this excruciatingly tense standoff, the witness begins to walk, literally matching pace with the unseen stalker, until a massive crash in the brush prompts them to just sprint blindly all the way back to their car.
All right, Section 4, Cold Case, Vermont Cover-Up.
Now, if that previous file was all about external tracking, this cold case from 20 years ago examines how a family might actively hide a secret or a person right under the same roof. The setting here is a massive Victorian house in upstate Vermont that had been converted into apartments. A 15-year-old was sent to stay with their great-aunt Lucy during a really bitter family divorce. And right away, the investigator in us should note a pretty huge architectural oddity. Aunt Lucy owned the entire sprawling first floor, which featured this beautiful master bedroom. Yet, she actively avoided it. She chose instead to sleep in a small, cramped den right off the living room, claiming the master just got too much morning light.
So, the supposedly vacant second-floor apartment directly above them became the focal point of the mystery. Let's lay out the step-by-step evidence the 15-year-old collected. Step 1. Methodical back-and-forth pacing heard up there every single night. Step 2. Upon sneaking up and inspecting the vacant floor, fresh scuff marks were found that perfectly matched the walking path they heard from below. Step 3. A faint flashlight beam was spotted moving around the dark apartment at 2 a.m. And how did Aunt Lucy react to all this? She just blamed it on the building settling. And when the pacing happened right over their heads while they were watching a movie, she literally just turned up the TV volume to pretend nothing was happening. So the crucial point here is how we analyze this evidence. On one side, we have the dismissive excuses, building settling or, a supposed supernatural ghost. But on the investigator side, we look at the hard facts. Years later, a cousin actually revealed that an undisclosed death occurred in that exact apartment in the 1990s, a death the family actively tried to keep totally quiet. Furthermore, the witness's mother knew about the footsteps too and demanded they never speak of it, calling it a sensitive topic. This heavily points to Aunt Lucy either harboring a hidden fugitive or perhaps acting as a blackmail victim, forced to quietly house someone completely off the grid.
Which brings us to Section 5, the final assessment.
By pulling back and looking at both of these investigative files together, we see a fascinating and honestly a really disturbing pattern. We've seen local neighborhood surveillance escalate into international tracking, complete with severe physical intimidation out in the woods. We've seen a family unit potentially gaslight a teenager just to hide a living person in a supposedly vacant apartment. Look, as investigators, we don't have the final wrapped-up confessions. We only have the evidence we've reviewed today. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Are these simply bizarre coincidences, just the result of hypervigilance and paranoia? Or are these true, unvarnished glimpses into orchestrated multi-year cover-ups happening right under our noses? I'll let you decide.